Are you a man over 60 who's starting to notice that peeing isn't as easy as it used to be? It might seem like a small issue at first, but then it keeps happening: frequent urination at night, the urge to go often, or the feeling of not fully emptying your bladder. It wears you out, disrupts your sleep, and can even become a nuisance during family gatherings or long trips. But let me ask you, have you ever truly tried to stop this from getting worse, or have you just brushed it off, thinking it's not a big deal? Hello, I'm Dr. Grace, a doctor specializing in men's health and elder care. Today, we're going to talk about how to prevent prostate enlargement, a condition that affects millions of men as they reach their 60s, 70s, and beyond. But here's the good news: there are simple things you can start doing right now to keep your prostate healthy. The prostate is a small gland shaped like a walnut, located just below the bladder and surrounding the urethra, the tube that carries urine out of the body. In younger men, prostate tissue grows normally, but as men enter middle age and beyond, this gland often continues to grow. It starts with an increase in the number of cells, a process called hyperplasia. And in some cases, this can progress abnormally and even lead to prostate cancer. So what causes the prostate to grow? The prostate grows most actively during puberty and early adulthood. This growth is heavily influenced by male sex hormones, known as androgens. Of all the androgens, testosterone is the most well-known. But within the prostate, testosterone doesn't act directly. When testosterone reaches the prostate, it is converted by an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase into a much more potent substance, DHT, dihydrotestosterone. DHT levels in the prostate are significantly higher than those of testosterone because DHT binds more strongly to receptors within the gland. When DHT attaches to these androgen receptors, it stimulates the prostate to increase cell production and grow in size. However, there's something that might sound contradictory. As men age, their overall testosterone levels actually decline, yet the prostate continues to enlarge. This tells us something important: testosterone or even androgens themselves are not the direct cause of prostate enlargement. Instead, benign prostatic hyperplasia, BPH, is the result of multiple factors, including the effects of DHT, age-related hormonal changes, and the prostate's long-term response to hormonal signaling over the years. However, before we can understand how to prevent prostate enlargement, the first important step is to understand what's really happening inside the body. BPH, or benign prostatic hyperplasia, is a condition in which the number of cells in the prostate grows abnormally. This increase primarily occurs in two types of cells: epithelial cells and stromal cells, the foundational building blocks of the prostate structure. Under normal conditions, our bodies continuously regenerate cells, new ones are created, and old ones die off. This is the body's natural balance. But in BPH, that balance is disrupted. More new cells are produced than old ones are cleared away, causing the prostate to gradually enlarge. So what causes this unchecked cell growth? One major factor is the increase of substances known as growth factors, biological compounds that stimulate cell proliferation. Common growth factors involved in BPH include epidermal growth factor, EGF, insulin-like growth factor, IGF, keratinocyte growth factor, KGF, and TGF-beta, a growth factor that plays a key role in regulating both cell proliferation and inflammation. These compounds trigger and accelerate the growth process, leading the prostate to enlarge over time, often without any symptoms until the condition becomes more advanced. So, what triggers this abnormal cell growth? There are two main groups of causes. The first factor is genetics. Studies show that BPH can be inherited in an autosomal dominant pattern. In other words, if your father has BPH, your chances of developing it are quite high. In particular, if someone develops BPH early, specifically before the age of 60, and the condition becomes so severe that it requires surgical removal of the prostate, it's very likely that they carry a specific genetic variant related to BPH. The second factor is inflammation. Inflammation is a term we hear often, but in the case of the prostate, There are many causes that can trigger it, including bacterial or viral infections, hormonal changes not necessarily due to high testosterone, autoimmune responses, where the immune system mistakenly attacks its own tissues, urine refluxing into the prostatic ducts causing irritation, an imbalance in the microbial ecosystem within the prostate. Currently, in middle-aged and older men, inflammation may not present with clear symptoms but can silently stimulate abnormal growth of prostate cells. The main mechanism lies in prolonged immune response, when immune cells, like macrophages and T lymphocytes, gather around irritated tissues. They release various pro-inflammatory cytokines such as Illinois-6, TNF-alpha, and Illinois-8. These mediators not only damage tissue but also promote the formation of fibrous tissue and the hyperplasia of epithelial cells, leading to the formation of enlarged prostate tissue. It is important to note that inflammation doesn't just cause enlargement, it also worsens urinary symptoms through a mechanism that stimulates sensory nerves in the pelvic area. Patients often experience nighttime urination, urgency, and a constant sensation of needing to urinate, but pass only small amounts of urine. Currently, there is no widely recommended specific anti-inflammatory therapy for BPH. However, natural inflammation-reducing strategies are considered a promising direction. These include eating plenty of leafy greens and antioxidant-rich foods, like tomatoes and berries. Daily light physical activity. Maintaining a healthy weight. The third factor is increased smooth muscle tone in the prostate. Within the structure of the prostate gland, besides glandular cells, there is a very important component called smooth muscle. This is an involuntary muscle, similar to the muscles in the intestinal walls or blood vessels. When this smooth muscle increases in quantity or contracts excessively, it can compress the urethra and worsen symptoms such as difficult urination, weak flow, and nighttime urination. One of the key systems that controls the activity of prostate smooth muscle is the sympathetic nervous system. This is a branch of the autonomic nervous system that becomes highly active in fight or flight situations. When the sympathetic nervous system is chronically activated, it causes the smooth muscle fibers in the prostate to contract more intensely, and may even lead to hyperplasia, growth of the smooth muscle. This is part of the prostate enlargement mechanism that few people know about. Several elements of modern lifestyle can excessively stimulate the sympathetic nervous system, causing sustained high tone of smooth muscle in the prostate and thereby worsening urinary symptoms. These factors include fluctuating blood sugar levels, especially hypoglycemia, diets high in refined sugars and unhealthy fats, overweight or obesity, chronic stress or poor sleep. Although this is not a direct cause of prostate enlargement, increased smooth muscle tone plays an important role in intensifying symptoms, even when the prostate is not significantly enlarged. This explains why some men may have a prostate that isn't very large, yet still experience more discomfort than others. Managing prostate smooth muscle tone through stabilizing blood sugar, weight loss, dietary changes, and stress reduction not only helps reduce BPH symptoms, but also interrupts a critical link in the neurohormonal inflammatory response chain. Once we fully understand what causes the prostate to enlarge, from hormones and inflammation to nerves and lifestyle, the next question is always, so why am I more at risk than others? Not everyone is affected in the same way. Some men, despite their age, only experience mildly slow urination, while others, even in their early 50s, are already waking up 3 to 4 times a night. This shows that beyond biological causes, there are risk factors, silent triggers that increase the likelihood of prostate enlargement or accelerate its progression over time. And at the top of that list is something more familiar than anything else: age, something none of us can pause. But we can live with it wisely and calmly. Prostate enlargement is almost like an uninvited companion of aging. As men enter their 50s and 60s, the prostate, which once was the size of a walnut, begins to gradually grow over time. This is a natural biological process, closely tied to changes in male hormones, like testosterone and DHT, and the body's diminishing ability to self-regulate. According to epidemiological data, around 50% of men over age 60 show signs of prostate enlargement. By the age of 80, that number can reach 80 to 90%. However, not all of them experience serious symptoms. Some men may have a large prostate with little discomfort, while others experience significant symptoms, like weak flow, frequent nighttime urination, or even urinary retention, with only mild enlargement. Aging is not something we can reverse, but we can slow down the progression of prostate growth through proper diet, physical activity, and maintaining a positive mindset. More importantly, if we catch unusual symptoms early, we can intervene with small yet effective changes, rather than waiting until medication or medical procedures become necessary. And secondly, excess body fat and obesity, the silent flame that fuels prostate disorders. Mr. Thomas, Grace's neighbor, is a cheerful man who loves country music and enjoys sipping his morning coffee on the porch. But recently, he started complaining about difficulty urinating and waking up 2 to 3 times a night. When he went in for a checkup, the first thing the doctor noted wasn't his age, but his waistline, over 110 centimeters. Many people assume obesity only affects the heart or joints. But belly fat is actually one of the most dangerous types of bad visceral fat. Unlike subcutaneous fat, the fat around the intestines and liver secretes inflammatory substances and disrupts hormones, particularly by increasing the conversion of testosterone into DHT, the hormone that directly stimulates prostate growth. According to research, men with a BMI over 35 have more than double the risk of prostate enlargement compared to those with a BMI under 25. And having a waistline of 109 centimeters or more increases the risk by 138%. That number isn't just alarming, it clearly shows that a big belly doesn't just strain your belt, it also squeezes your urethra. But here's the good news: belly fat is one of the easiest things to change. Just a 20-minute walk each day, eating more slowly, and cutting back on fried foods. And suddenly, the body feels lighter, and the prostate can breathe easier. Just like Mr. Thomas, now. After 3 months of changing his habits, he sleeps through the night, and his morning coffee doesn't have to be rushed because of a sprint to the bathroom. Third, there's a condition that nearly every older adult has become familiar with: diabetes. For many people over 60, diabetes has almost become an old companion. Some have lived with it for 5 years, others for over a decade, thinking that just taking medication and following a restricted diet is enough. But few realize that this condition is also quietly disrupting the prostate and affecting their ability to urinate every single day. When blood sugar levels remain high over time, it disrupts the balance of the autonomic nervous system, especially the nerves that control the bladder and the prostate. As a result, urination becomes irregular, difficulty starting, weak flow, and frequent nighttime urination. But that's not all. Diabetes also increases chronic inflammation and boosts DHT activity, which causes prostate cells to multiply faster. According to studies, people with diabetes have a 95% higher risk of developing urinary symptoms and a 125% higher risk of prostate enlargement compared to those without diabetes. The upside is this: just by keeping your blood sugar under control, eating a balanced diet, and walking daily, you won't just be protecting your heart, kidneys, and eyes. You'll also be helping your prostate breathe a little easier each day. And finally, the last major culprit is your diet and lack of physical activity, a silent duo quietly cornering your prostate over time. It's no different than an old car left idle for too long and filled with cheap fuel, it clogs up. Our bodies work the same way. If you keep loading up on red meat and fried foods, but sit all day without moving, it's not just your heart, liver, or joints that suffer, your prostate gets jammed up, too. Aging faster than it should. Multiple studies have shown eating red meat daily increases your risk of prostate enlargement by nearly 30%, while eating less than 1 serving of vegetables per day pushes that risk up by another 38%. Saturated fats, reused frying oil, processed foods, These all drive chronic inflammation and throw your hormones off balance. It's a dangerous spiral. Poor diet leads to silent inflammation. And eventually that fuels the unchecked growth of prostate cells. But it's not just the food, it's also the sedentary lifestyle that sneaks under the radar. Lack of movement slows your metabolism, builds up visceral fat, and most importantly, it activates your sympathetic nervous system, causing the smooth muscles in the prostate to contract more often. The good news? Just walking over 2 hours per week can lower your BPH risk by 27% to 50%. A healthy body doesn't require an expensive gym membership, just a pair of committed legs and a plate full of greens at dinner. Sometimes, it's the small things like these that give us something precious in return: peaceful, uninterrupted sleep, without waking up for a little problem that really isn't so little at all. And perhaps no one ever wishes to wake up in the middle of the night, startled, just because they urgently need to pee. Or stand silently in front of the toilet while a weak, broken stream trickles out. Yet this is exactly what many people are quietly enduring. Grace understands that sometimes, just a few small but consistent changes, done the right way, can help your prostate breathe easier without needing medication. Best of all, these are things you can do at home, starting today. 1. Eat right. Nourish your prostate from the inside out. Food isn't just fuel, it's a quiet companion that continuously shapes a man's hormonal health. One standout nutrient often mentioned in prostate health is lycopene, a powerful antioxidant found in cooked tomatoes, tomato sauce, and tomato juice. A 7-year study showed that men who consumed 6 milligrams of lycopene per day or more reduced their risk of prostate enlargement by nearly 18%. Additionally, a Mediterranean-style diet, rich in leafy greens, seafood, olive oil, nuts, and low in red meat, is not only good for your heart, but also helps balance hormones, reduce inflammation, and support long-term prostate health. Simple daily suggestions: 1 bowl of steamed vegetables with olive oil, half a bowl of rice served with cooked tomato sauce, or simply skipping red meat at dinner. 2. Gentle movement, the free medicine for your prostate. Most people think physical activity is only for losing weight, but in reality, it also helps regulate the autonomic nervous system, relax the smooth muscles of the prostate, and improve blood circulation. Brisk walking, slow cycling, yoga, or even daily gardening not only help ease the mind but can also reduce the risk of BPH by 30 to 50% if done consistently. And sometimes, what exhausts a man the most isn't the illness itself, it's the quiet fear he carries alone. Some men still feel desire, but hesitate to share it with their wife, afraid they'll be misunderstood as inappropriate. Some relieve themselves through masturbation, but then live with shame, afraid of being discovered, afraid it'll harm their health, afraid of losing face, even afraid of losing their partner. If these worries stay buried inside, they become a form of chronic stress, disrupting both the nervous and hormonal systems. The body remains in a state of alert. The sympathetic nervous system kicks in, tightening the smooth muscles around the prostate, making urination more difficult and symptoms worse. Grace wants to remind you, desire is natural. You don't need to feel ashamed of it. What matters is learning to listen to your body, regulate your emotions, and find healthy ways to unwind. Take deep breaths, write in a journal, tend to your plants, or simply sit quietly for a moment and ask yourself, what am I really worried about today? These are the first steps to helping your hormones and nervous system return to balance. And when your mind finds peace, your body, especially your prostate, will feel it too.